Ever stumble upon a blog and it kind of feels less like reading and more like, you're peeking over someone's shoulder while they figure things out?
Yeah, totally.
That's the vibe I get with this graphics illustrations by B. Sylvia.
It is. It is.
On the surface, we're talking graphic design, but it's
Oh,
way
yeah.
more than that.
Oh, for sure.
It's about the hustle, the self-doubt that creeps in, all those unexpected turns you make when you're like trying to be a creative entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And honestly, there's some real gems of wisdom here. And not just if you're a designer. I think anyone can relate to this.
You're so right. And what I find fascinating about this blog is how, like, B. Sylvia just puts it all out there.
Yeah.
The wins, the struggles, even those, wait, did that just happen? Moments. Like 1 minute they're selling these super sleek Zoom backgrounds, and then the next they're talking about, battling self-doubt when it comes to promoting themselves, which they talk about in their September 22nd post.
Yeah, and that's what I love. It's so refreshing how honest they are. Like, they even admit to struggling with branding themselves, which, let's be real for a second.
Oh, yeah.
That's, like, every creative person's, like, Achilles heel.
Big time. It's so common.
Yeah.
And B. Sylvia's honesty, like, that's what makes their journey so relatable.
Totally.
Take their cat print shop, for example. This Cat Prints by B. Sylvia.
Okay, yes. Tell me more about this.
So brilliant. They've taken, like, their love for cats, which who doesn't love cats?
Right.
And turned it into this whole business, selling their designs on everything. Mugs, tote bags, you name it.
Okay, so not only are they designing, but they've got a whole shop on top of that. What's that even like behind the scenes?
So that's where B. Sylvia's like inner entrepreneur really shines through. They're using platforms like Shopify, which makes setting up an online store way easier. And get this, they're using print-on-demand services.
Wait, hold on. Print on demand?
Yes.
For those of us who don't speak design, what does that even mean?
So basically, instead of having a ton of inventory, they only print something when someone orders it.
Oh.
Genius,
Oh,
right?
it's so smart.
Less risk, less waste, and they can offer like way more stuff without the storage nightmare.
So it's like they're running a super efficient cat-themed design machine.
Exactly. And it highlights this huge trend, which is that niche businesses are blowing up right now. B. Sylvia's found their corner of the internet, and they are rocking it.
They are killing it.
Crushing it. But here's where it gets even more interesting.
Okay.
They're not just doing the design basics. They're experimenting with, like, new tools. Have you heard of NotebookLM?
NotebookLM. Okay. Sounds intriguing and also maybe a little intimidating. Break that down for me. What is it, and what is B. Sylvia doing with it?
Think of NotebookLM as, like, the super-powered creative assistant
Okay.
powered by AI.
Oh, wow.
B. Sylvia's even using it for podcasting.
Whoa, podcasting. That seems like a whole other level.
Right, but that's what's so inspiring about their whole approach. They're always learning, adapting, trying new things, and that willingness to just go for it. That's what keeps their work feeling so fresh and engaging.
It's true, because it's like they're saying, hey, I'm a designer, but I'm also like a student of
Yes.
of all things creative, and they're bringing us along for the ride. It's really inspiring.
Totally. And this whole exploration with NotebookLM is a perfect example. They're using it to create a podcast specifically for their cat print shop.
Yeah.
It's a really smart way to connect with their niche audience in a completely different way.
Talk about thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
But, with all this talk about AI and fancy new tech, what really struck me about B. Sylvia's blog is how personal it feels. They share these funny anecdotes, like there's this one about a photo shoot gone wrong.
Oh, yes. That post was brilliant. They could have easily been like, I'm this flawless design guru, but instead they share this hilarious story about a photo shoot that completely went off the rails, and it just makes them so relatable.
Right. And it speaks to something so important, which is authenticity.
Totally.
Like, that is everything online these days.
It's everything. And B. Sylvia gets that. They're not afraid to just be themselves online, crack a joke, share their struggles, geek out about their love for cats.
Yeah.
It's that genuine voice that draws people in.
It's like that is their secret sauce,
Mhm.
That genuine connection. You can't buy that.
It's true. No algorithm can give you that.
Exactly. And it reminds me of B. Sylvia talked about this, how even when life gets crazy, right?
Yeah.
You can always find your way back to the things you love, the things you're passionate about. They were saying there was a time they actually stepped away from the blog,
Right.
but they came back
They did.
even stronger.
That really resonated with me too. It's like Those breaks, sometimes that's where the real growth happens, even if you can't see it at the time.
That's a good point, yeah.
And when they came back, Be Sylvia, their content was even richer, more insightful, you know?
It makes you think about all those times maybe you stepped away from something you loved, something creative, and you're like, oh, it was a dead end. But maybe it wasn't.
Right.
Maybe it was just like a detour.
Exactly. A detour to something even better.
Leading you to something even better.
Yeah. And, this goes back to, like, Be Sylvia's whole approach, which is this really cool blend of personal experience and business savvy.
Yeah.
Because they're not just, like, pushing products.
Yeah.
They're sharing their passion. And that's honestly what makes all the difference.
Right, because you're buying into their story, their whole vibe. It's like a lifestyle.
A day.
It's not just about buying a T-shirt with a cat on it.
And that's what makes them stand out, especially now when, like, the market is so crowded.
Totally.
There's just so much out there, but they've figured it out.
They have. It's so smart.
They have.
And you know what else they've figured out? Fonts.
Oh, yeah.
You remember that post they talked about fonts? And it's like, okay, we all use fonts.
Right, but we don't really think about them.
Yeah, we take them for granted. But they made it fascinating.
They did. Do you remember they compared choosing the right font to, like, finding the perfect pair of shoes?
Yes.
It can make or break the whole look. And then seeing their photography alongside their words.
So good.
Showcasing, like, vintage cameras and typewriters.
Yeah.
So smart.
It's like they're inviting us into their brain for a minute.
Yes.
And you realize how much thought they put into every single detail.
Totally.
And that's their whole thing, right? That attention to detail, it's everywhere.
Everywhere. From the design, the graphics, running the shop, everything.
Everything. Speaking of the shop, can we talk about NotebookLM, but this time on their Cat Prince podcast?
Yeah.
Because it's one thing to, like, dabble.
Right, to play around with it.
Yeah, but to launch a whole podcast,
To go all in.
that's next level. That shows, like, a real willingness to push boundaries, to try new things, to reach their audience.
Absolutely. And I love that about them because they could have easily just been like, you know what, I'm comfortable, I'm good at what I do.
Just okay.
I'm just
right.
going to stick with it. But they didn't.
But they did.
They embraced the unknown, and that's powerful.
That's a good lesson for all of us, right?
Huge.
Like, the world is changing so fast, especially the digital world.
Oh my gosh, constantly. Yeah.
And being open to those new tools,
Yeah.
those new technologies,
Yeah.
that can lead to amazing opportunities that you didn't even know existed before.
Absolutely. And Be Sylvia's podcast, that's proof.
Living proof.
Right.
And it's inspiring to see how they can do that. Like, dive into podcasting, which is so different, and still stay true to the heart of their work.
Totally.
The photography.
The photography,
Sure.
that's the through line, you know?
Yes.
That artistic vision is always there.
It's so cool. They've got that balance, the innovation,
Yeah.
but also staying true to what makes their work special.
100%. And that's something we can all take a page from, whether we're, designers, entrepreneurs, or just trying to, like, inject a little more creativity into our lives.
Absolutely.
It's a good reminder.
It is, yeah. And it's like they're always pushing themselves creatively, right?
Yay.
And showing us what's possible when we're like, okay, I'm going to try something new.
Yeah.
But here's the thing I keep coming back to with Be Sylvia. Like, yeah, all the tech stuff is super cool.
Right.
But at their core, they're a photographer, right?
Oh, yeah.
And they get, like, the power of a really strong image, the way you can just elevate a whole design, tell a story without even using words.
Absolutely. And it's so interesting to see how they weave that into all of their work.
It's true.
Like, remember those vintage cameras and typewriters in that font post?
So good.
They could have easily just talked about typography, but they went that extra mile, created this whole visual thing that just brings it all together.
Yes. It's like they're saying, I'm not just telling you about design, I'm showing you how my brain works, how I see things.
Yes, exactly.
And that just makes it so much more, I don't know, richer.
Oh, for sure.
But it also makes you wonder, how does someone like Be Sylvia, who clearly values that more, like, traditional side of design, how do they keep up with, like, all the tech stuff?
Right, because it changes so fast.
Constantly.
That's the million-dollar question. And honestly, I think they have a really smart approach, which is, yeah, they're into technology, they're trying new things,
Yeah.
but they're not letting it, like, take over.
Right?
It's a tool to help them achieve their vision, not to, like, become the vision, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, it totally does. It's like finding that balance, respecting where things came from, but being open to the possibilities.
100%. Didn't they talk about that in one of their posts?
They did, yeah. They were basically saying, Don't get so caught up in the latest trends that you forget the fundamentals, the basics.
Oh, that's such a good reminder for everyone, not just creative people.
So true.
It's easy to get like swept up in all the hype,
Totally.
but at the end of the day, it's about what works for you, for your process.
100%.
And for B. Sylvia, that means blending the traditional with the cutting edge.
And always keeping it real, right? That authenticity.
Always.
That's key. Well, as we wrap up this deep dive into graphics illustrations,
Yeah.
what's the one big thing you hope listeners take away from B. Sylvia's story?
I think the biggest takeaway here is that, unleashing your creativity, it's not a one and done kind of thing. It's like this constant journey,
Yeah.
exploration, experimentation, and sometimes you gotta embrace the unknown a little bit.
Love that.
Like whether it's launching a cat-themed business or, diving headfirst into a podcast with AI,
Right.
or even just, being brave enough to share your perspective with the world.
Yeah.
Don't stop learning, keep growing, push those boundaries.
I love that. And on that note, I have a question for everyone listening. What's one creative risk you've been thinking about taking? And what's holding you back? Take a page from B. Sylvia's book, because maybe, just maybe, this is your sign to go for it.